Buster, please be quiet. Buster. Hey there, welcome back to Little Z Farm. I'm Katie. Today I am making the meal that I've determined that I can make after receiving my first food challenge mystery box from Lacey Mical Walker. Lacey and I were collaborating together to do this challenge where we each send each other 4 ingredients. So 4 ingredients and the other person has no idea what they're going to be. And from those 4 ingredients, we have to make 4 separate dishes to make a complete meal. 1 entree, 2 sides, and 1 dessert. And so I packed up the ingredients here from close to Kansas City, Missouri, and shipped them to Long Island, New York, where Lacey is. And we both did our unboxings where we found out what each person chose for each other. If you haven't headed over to Lacey's page yet, please do so. Subscribe there. This is our first challenge. We're hoping that we will do more in the future. So this is it. Here we are. So we each have to use what's already in our pantry and fridge, except for a number that we got to draw, 1 through 3, of additional ingredients that we could buy to make our meals. And Paul Hollywood, my goat, he drew my number, and he drew a 1. Yay! So I had to kind of go through my pantry and fridge, see what I had, see what I was feeling. I had a couple of leftover things from the holidays that I wouldn't necessarily always have here. But I've been kind of using them up. So as I was looking at what I had some chicken, I had like some nuts, some like baking nuts. I had, you know, obviously the staples, milk, eggs, butter, those things, thankfully. Thank goodness, because I did not know when this box was coming. So that's where I kind of made my plan. And I'm just gonna get started and I will explain why I chose what I did as we go. But today I am going to start with dessert. And the ingredient that I'm going to be featuring in the dessert is honey. So I am making for my dessert a honey pecan walnut shortbread bar type thing. Nothing fancy, it should be pretty easy to make. When I was thinking about dessert, you know, I kind of thought of dessert first because honey. This honey is pretty bold in flavor. I think that's going to end up being really nice for these little shortbread bars. So I'm just going to do this in the food processor, make this shortbread crust in the food processor. So I have the oven going. I'm going to do a 1/3 cup of sugar with a stick of butter. I'm gonna let that pulse together first. It's so loud. I'm going to do about a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, an 1/8 teaspoon of salt. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. We'll do 1 around the bin here. And then I'm going to do a 1 1/4 cups of flour to make the crust. I like shortbread because shortbread is pretty forgiving and I am not very good at like exact measurements, to be honest. So I'm just gonna check and see if this is the right consistency. Shortbread is very crumbly. That's why when you eat shortbread, you know, it kind of crumbles in your mouth. So it's going to be crumbly, but it should pinch together between your fingers. It's formable. It can just kind of crumble in your hands. So that it is even throughout. I am just going to poke some holes in this and let it cook for 20 minutes in a 375-degree oven while I get the topping prepared. This is a very pungent honey. I don't know how else to describe it. I have added a 1/4 cup butter, 3/4 cup packed brown sugar, and a 1/2 cup of the honey, which ended up being pretty much that entire thing of honey. So I'm going to let this come to a boil, and then I am going to add cream and a little bit of vanilla and salt, but I'm gonna add that off the heat. I will add chopped pecans and walnuts. So I have added the nuts to that. I am waiting for the shortbread to come out. I will put the topping on it, and then I will get it in the oven for 20 minutes. So what I ultimately decided was that I was going to use the mushrooms in my main dish, and I'm going to make a chicken, mushroom, onion saute, like butter sauteed. And that's gonna be kind of the main. I thought about doing a stuffed chicken, but I didn't have the chicken breast to do that. I just have chicken breast tenderloins. So this is what I'm doing with that. And then I'm going to make a tomato basil couscous. And that is inspiration from something that I saw online. And then I'm going to use the smoked paprika on sweet potatoes, and sweet potatoes were my one ingredient that I purchased at the store, because the idea of that couscous with the mushroom chicken and then having that kind of starchy sweet spicy mix on the sweet potatoes was something that really appealed to me. So I'm going to reconstitute these dried tomatoes, and since I only have a short amount of time, I'm going to do that I'm going to boil the water and then let them soak for about a half hour to 45 minutes. While I am rehydrating those mushrooms, I am going to get the other veggies ready for the rest of the dishes. So obviously the sweet potatoes are the biggest of that. It's nice because over here in my sink, I don't know if you can see it right here, I have a little compost trash can, and all of this is gonna go into compost. Depending on what I'm making, we use it as chicken scraps, but we go through at least 2 things of compost, sink compost a week, and that is separate from the scraps that we feed the chickens. I am going to just peel these sweet potatoes after I washed them and get them ready to chop up for roasted sweet potatoes with smoked paprika. Adding that smoked paprika is just gonna take it to a completely different level. Oh man, the sun is setting because I'm taking my sweet time. I'm gonna get the sweet potatoes ready to go into the oven. As soon as the dessert comes out, I'm going to get the sweet potatoes in. You need to go away because now I have to wash my hands again. I don't like it. I have 1.5 chopped sweet potatoes. I saved the other half because I'm gonna give it to the goats. I'm just going to coat these in olive oil. Definitely want to have enough oil on them so that the seasonings will stick, and I need that smoked paprika to stick because it's one of the mystery box ingredients. I'm going to do smoked paprika and kosher salt. I'm pretty generous on the salt of things. And then I'm just going to make sure that I get plenty of the smoked paprika on. Yeah. This has to cool. A couple things about roasting vegetables for me that I didn't know, that I took forever to learn. So maybe I'll help someone else. When you have them on your tray, spread them out as much as possible. Make sure you're using a large enough baking tray if you like crispy, and I do. So I have them spread out as much as possible, get the airflow in there. And then I'm using parchment paper, and I'm using parchment paper instead of foil. It is going to transfer the temperature better and, you know, help create a more even and crispy cook. I still have about 5 minutes left on the mushrooms. I have chopped onions and sweet potatoes and garlic. I need 2 cloves of garlic. I chopped 4 all together. I'm gonna use the 2 in my couscous dish, which I am about to start. And then I'm going to use 2 chopped cloves in my main dish with my mushrooms. Okay, now the fun begins. I gotta make this last side dish in the main dish at the same time. So I am going to start with the main chicken dish, and I'm going to mix my chicken with olive oil, salt, pepper, garlic, and whatever other seasonings I choose to find. I'm not doing anything crazy on the seasoning because I'm hoping, you know, this is really gonna be mushroom and butter driven. So I'm gonna saute this chicken and cook it on both sides, and I'm sauteing that in about a 1/4 cup of olive oil and a 1/4 cup of butter. And so it's gonna look like a lot in here. And then I'm gonna remove the chicken, and I am going to add the onions first and let those cook down a little bit. And then I'm going to add the mushrooms and the garlic. I'm gonna let those all cook and saute, and then I will add the chicken back in, and I will serve it with a little bit of parsley. They're already looking good, smelling smoky. I'm gonna put these back in for another 15 minutes. So for this couscous dish, I am going to make this tomato basil couscous. I'm gonna use canned tomatoes that we have from our garden this year, and I'm just gonna reduce those tomatoes in this pot that we currently have that has a lid. So I'm going to reduce that, let it simmer down for a minute before I add the couscous. And then I'm gonna add that couscous and kind of let that cook there for like maybe 6 to 8 minutes. And once that has happened, I'm gonna go back in, I'm going to add in the garlic, add in some basil, and then I'm going to let that continue cooking until it's finished. And when it's finished, I'm going to add in about a 1/4 cup of this like Italian cheese blend I have, and mix it all together, and it's gonna be kind of this little bit more cohesive couscous side dish. It will be nice when like the basil is from our garden, we have fresh tomatoes, that's gonna be, and onions. Like a lot of this meal could be from our garden, and I'm really looking forward to that, like really looking forward to it. It's just a really simple chicken with the sauteed mushrooms. Hopefully that's gonna bring out the best flavors in the mushrooms. I think there are a lot more complicated, complex things that you could do, but you don't have to. You don't have to do that to have a really delicious meal. And I think that is something that I am learning and trying to take hold of, because I'm a person who can get lost in the kitchen. Like I can just spend a lot of time in the kitchen trying to make new things and, you know, trying to make complex dishes, but you don't always have to do that. And I think that you can have truly delicious meals with very simple ingredients and like simple recipes. I'm gonna plate this and get ready for my husband to come home. Okay, so the report is chicken with the mushrooms, so good. The sweet potatoes with the smoked paprika, delicious. Couscous, tomato and basil, not gonna make it again, probably. Not like that anyway, we'll see. And then the report on the honey walnut pecan shortbread bars is, I think it depends on who you are. This is that special honey, you know, it's not a typical run-of-the-mill honey, and so it has a very distinct flavor, and that flavor definitely carried through. So at the second bite I was like, okay, this is really good, but the first bite was a bit of a struggle for me just because that flavor was so profound. So I think that's it for this first food challenge mystery box. Don't forget to check out Lacey's page to see what she made with the ingredients that I shipped her, and subscribe to both pages, please. We would certainly appreciate it. Thanks for watching, as always, and I'll see you next time.